Hmm. Okay, so Chainsaw Man chapter 151 just dropped, and we are going to talk about it. Hello, hello. Okay, so the chapter starts with the weapon devil people. They captures Fumiko and holds her hostage. And Mary starts to try and explain to Denji to why they are doing this. And it's a convincing argument. I too also set other people's houses on fire to save the world. The whip woman, she doesn't believe what Mary is preaching. She thinks he is a crazy person for doing it. And he does seem a bit psycho right now. But from previous chapters, it's not exactly. He's not, he's not that into his own beliefs. We see that in previous chapters, there's like cracks in the way he thinks about the idea of the prophecy. So that's something that will probably be explored in the future. But anyways, Nayuta, she's pissed, so she shoots a chain at Barum and tells him to bite his tongue and die. Barum, on the other hand, doesn't do that. He stands up, he walks slowly to Nayuta and starts choking her. And his reasoning for not being under Nayuta's control is that he is still under Makima's control. So it no longer works on him. This is something I'll get into a bit later. But Barum chokes Nayuta and then he talks to Denji for a little bit. He reveals that he's actually, very down with Makima's ideologies and everything else. And he blames Denji for killing Nayuta and not continuing her work. Um, we'll get into this a bit later too, but in following this, Nayuta she shoots a chain at one of the fallen public safety officers, and he shoots Barum in the head to free her. So Denji uses his chance to pull on his chainsaw cord and once again become Chainsaw Man again. So he looks very angry here, and this is probably the most pissed we ever seen Denji. Um, so he does that, but at the end, his rage kind of turns into joy because he finally gets to turn back into Chainsaw Man and fulfill his dream of being a hero. Which is why we get this panel of him as a child and Pochita approvingly waves at him. So Denji rips his cord along with the shirt and shows off some of his abs. He is absolutely shredded. And he turns again with Nayuta questioning why he's laughing. And we get this. It's a weird thematic choice, I think, because usually for moments like these, you might get like a big panel of just like Denji full bodied in this chainsaw glory. But here we see the focus of his panel is this cross here, this the remnants of his burnt apartment. and Denji's only like a little side note on the left. So it's a interesting choice, which is what we'll get into right now with the imagery of the cross. So it could be a Jesus imagery, as we mentioned before, about how Denji's comeback, his return to being Chainsaw Man, is phrased as like a resurrection of sorts. But it could also be something else, because in American history, a burnt cross is a symbolism of hate, of bigotry towards black people. And usually I wouldn't really pay attention to this because, it's a Japanese. Fujimoto is Japanese. I wouldn't be expect him to be like as well versed in American history, culture as much. But just a couple chapters ago, he had Baron sing the Kumbaya, which is often believed to be like a slave song, like a song slaves used to sing while they were forced into labor. It's not like a confirmed thing. There's still like speculation on whether they actually were doing this, but it is a frequent occurrence in literature and movies and the like. So what could this mean? It could be like a hint that Denji's gonna be enslaved by the cult in some way. Or it could just be a total coincidence. Um, and apparently, a burning cross is like a Scottish declaration of war back in the day. So that could also be it about how Denji's declaring war on the cults, on the church, and on the other weapons devils. Uh, so we'll see what this really means in the coming chapters. Ooh, my voice is giving out. Another thing I kind of want to go over in here is how crazy all of these people seem from Denji's perspective. Because you have Miri here. He's they burnt down his house and they're all like talking about how Denji is meant to save the world. He's meant to stop death, meant to stop Nostradamus' prophecy. And Denji doesn't know about any of it, right? Because he was passed out when Fami was explaining this to Nayuta. So, from Denji's point of view, like, none of this makes any sense at all. And even if he did know about what Fami had explained to Nayuta earlier, even if Denji heard all that, it still doesn't make a whole lot of sense because it's like, what is Denji expected to do here? Because from the prophecy, they're still like 3 or 4 months away from death coming onto Earth. And Miri telling Denji to unleash his anger and to save the world, it's like, what? I don't know what he thinks Denji should do, like, in this immediate moment. So Denji, as you can see, most of his reactions this chapter are like, huh? What? That's crazy, bro. So he's just very confused. He doesn't know what's going on. And from Denji's first person view, right? He's getting harassed by these guys. They don't explain themselves very well. They're just screaming like a bunch of nonsense at him. They burn down his house, they burn down his pets. And then you have Baron here accusing Denji of being complacent, being like not doing what he must to do, which is to get rid of the undesirables of the world. But that's not really true. Because for the better part of the last, like, year and a half, Denji was fighting devils to the best of his abilities. He was, like, going out of his way to protect the public. Meanwhile, these fuckers, like the other weapons hybrids, they're not doing anything as far as we know, right? Because otherwise the public would be more aware of their existence. And so, from the info we have, like the other weapons hybrids were just doing all the church cult stuff. They're not helping anyone. So from Denji's perspective, there's a lot of unreasonable demands and like a lot of false accusations against him. But yeah, so there's also something interesting here with Makima's control over Baron. That her powers and influence still lingers to this day. So Baron claims that he is still, part of, like, Nayuta can't control him because he's under Makima's control. But that doesn't really add up all that much because the other weapons hybrids, they're not under the same influence as far as we can tell. Quan Chi is doing her own thing with the public safety sector. So, and the whip woman, she doesn't believe in whatever Baron's spewing at all, right? She openly laughed at Nostradamus' prophecy while Mary was screaming some nonsense at Denji. So I think only Baron is affected by that. So what does that mean? So either his simp level is just very high, or he is doing it to himself. Because, so the way Makima's powers work is that she has to believe that she is superior to others to control them. And in Baron's case, if he mentally thinks that Nayuta is inferior to Makima, could that mean that like he can break free of Nayuta's control with his willpower? Or the other way around, right? If Nayuta doesn't believe that she is superior to Makima, then maybe her control won't work as well. Or if Nayuta doesn't think that she's superior to Baron, her control isn't as effective. Because Baron has been a bit intimidating when he's been in front of Nayuta. He's been doing a lot of crazy person stuff. So perhaps that has some influence on what Nayuta does. So the conclusion I'm reaching is that Nayuta's control, or her lack of control, is more on their mentality rather than anything Makima's doing or anything Makima did in the past. That's how I perceive the scene. But that's the end of the chapter. Next chapter, we have a gigantic break from next chapter. It's gonna be 3 weeks from now. Jesus. I assume part of it is holiday and part of it is like Fujimoto's personal breaks. But yeah, 3 weeks from now is next chapter. The Reze movie was also announced. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about it being a movie. There's positives and negatives of it. Positives is that, with the movie, it's going to be really high production. The budget's going to be really good. The pacing, I assume, is going to be a lot better than if it's just a show. The con is that it's going to be in theaters only, so I'll have to go outside to watch it. it's also gonna be a bit hard for people in the West to watch it, especially in the US, because the theaters that they release this in is gonna be limited. There's also the issue of the Mappa animators being, I wouldn't say abused, but like being pressured and forced to work long hours. And also, I think the director of the first Chainsaw Man season recently just left the company. So there may be some quality issues in terms of the director and personnel. But yeah, that's about the end. Oh, let's see. If Denji releases his anger and takes it out on the world, people will hate Chainsaw Man even more, which will grow and evolve the remaining months. I think Nayuta can control him because she's simply afraid of Barum. Yeah, okay, that's two different points. Alright, so the first point, I don't think Denji's going to like attack random innocents, right? Because despite Denji, he's still like a not horrible person at the end of the day. Like he may not be the most altruistic person, but he's not like killing random kind of person. And also like the chainsaw growing. The fear of chainsaw growing doesn't actually apply to Denji, like the power up. Because we saw this with Pochita, right? Because when Pochita gained popularity, or when Denji gained popularity, his powers doesn't actually diminish. It only like went down when Pochita came out. So from what we've seen so far, he's not Denji's strength doesn't like fluctuate based on how other people perceive him. Um, let's see. I think Nayuta can't control him because she's simply afraid of Baron. He killed her entire family and is getting up from a hail of bullets. She is most likely terrified of him. Yeah, I think that might be because Baron is, he's acting like he's a insane person, right? And that's inherently a scary thing. And Nayuta's under a lot of stress right now, as far as the dogs and the cats and the apartment and all of that. So yeah, Nayuta's mental is definitely not great, even though she's not like a normal human person. But yeah, I think let me go over the chapter again to see if there's anything I missed. I think one. I'm not sure if I said this earlier, but there's the thing about Baron's fixation on Makima is that it's kind of another. How do you say it? It's like there's throughout Chainsaw Man, there's a theme of characters like misunderstanding the people they look up to. So in this case, Barum, he's looking up to Makima. He sees her goals and ideology as like the end all be all. But Makima, her goals to eliminate like suffering is only secondary, right? Because remember, her primary goal when she fought Pochita was to be eaten by him. So Barum, he's kind of basing his entire personality ideology off like something that Makima never took that seriously. So I think that's like a layer of tragedy to Baron's goals and ambitions. But yeah, that's the one thing I wanted to add that I don't think I went over in the slide. Okay, I guess it's about it for this week. Thanks for watching. I'll see y'all